Both the PRS SE McCarty 594 and the newly updated S2 594 with the 5815 American-made pickups are really popular guitars. They feel great out of the box, they come really well set up, the quality control is excellent as a whole on PRS guitars regardless of what price range you're in, and they sound awesome. Today we're going to be discussing whether or not I feel it is worth the money to invest a little bit more and get the S2 version, or to go with the SE, or perhaps there's a third option that's somewhere in between the two of them. I'm not going to waste your time doing a full overview of the spec differences between these two guitars. I feel it's pretty well documented at this point, but I do want to tell you that today's video is not sponsored. Nobody is paying me to make this, so make of that what you will. And if you are interested in either of these guitars, you want to check them out, one of the links down below, and while you're down there, leave a like. Helps me out. We are going to start right off with some sound demonstrations though. We're going to be using the Dr. Z amplification Z+, and then we're going to be using the Brown amplification Protein for some drive. We're not going to be using the SM57 today for a more consistent sound. We're going to be using the 2 Notes Captor X. When I made my review of this guitar, the SE594, I highlighted the pickups as a really strong positive for them, which kind of surprised me because I haven't always loved the GMB pickups that PRS uses in these SC versions, but I think that they work really well in this particular instrument, especially in full-on humbucker mode. Once I was splitting the coils, yeah, it's a totally different kind of vibe, and I absolutely prefer the American-made 5815s, and I prefer them in general as a whole, but it's more noticeable to split coils. However, I don't feel that these are deficient in any ways or something that I would rush to upgrade. There is one thing as far as the electrical components in practice that you will notice between this guitar, the SE, and the S2 versions. And that's if you're somebody who uses the volume and the tone controls, which I highly recommend you do as a guitar player. The taper on the volume is pretty good. It's got a little bit of resistance to it. It's not as nice as the taper that comes with the S2 versions, but the tone controls on this, the littlest touch will send this thing spinning like crazy. So in the middle of a song, if you wanted to roll off just a tiny bit of the tone, you could accidentally almost entirely roll this thing off without much force, and I really don't love that. Compared to the S2 American components, I don't have that problem. The good news is PRS themselves know that this is an upgrade a lot of people want to make, and they offer a drop-in wiring harness for these guitars that'll run you about $100. Now I want to address what I feel is the most important thing and the hardest thing to kind of decipher from a YouTube video, and that's the difference in feel between the two guitars. This guitar is really nice, and honestly, I wish that all import versions of American guitars were as nice and as consistent as the PRS SEs, because they're a really good representation of what you could get at an affordable price. These guitars are $900 compared to the S2 versions that are $2,350. I have nothing really to complain about as far as the playability goes. It's a nice guitar that stays in tune great. The hardware on this end of it is really good. Sure, maybe you could make the argument that the tuners, they aren't of the top quality, but they get the job done, and they're, again, not something that were immediately failing me out of the box. But when I switch from this guitar to the other guitar, I absolutely do notice a difference between the two of them, as nice as this one is. The first thing I think to myself when I pick up this guitar after playing the SC is that this one just feels a lot nicer. This feels like the much more expensive instrument. And that's not always the case when you're spending more money on something, but it's how it should be. Again, nothing against the SE model. I think it is a great value, and it's a great way to get into PRS guitars without breaking the bank. But for feel alone, this one to me is just a night and day difference. I love the neck on this guitar combined with the nitrocellulose finish and the slightly different neck profile. This has a PRS feeling specific neck profile to it, and even though that these share the same exact profile to them on paper, in the hands, that one feels much more like a kind of rounded 50 style neck that's a little bit more generic, whereas the asymmetrical carve on this one is really just screams PRS, and it does again remind me of my old core model. And speaking of the core models, the pickups and the electronics on this one are the same ones that you're going to find on the core models. And think of the prices of the cores. You're doubling this $2,350 to get into a core McCarty or McCarty 594. And it really presents itself as a really unique value at that point because, yeah, these are more expensive than when they were first released. And some people are pretty unhappy with the increases. But taking a look at the bigger picture here, you're getting a lot of guitar for your money, and there's really PRS is almost doing themselves an injustice, and I feel like there's less reason now to buy a core than there is to buy one of these, because you're getting 95% of the way there with one of these guitars, and you're saving a whole lot of money. For me, though, if I was going to be doing this and I was on a budget and I didn't want to pay full price for one of these guys, you do have the option, like I said, you could put the harness into the SE version of it and throw on any set of pickups you want. You're still going to come out way ahead compared to buying one of these things at retail, and you have a lot of options available to you if you decide to go down that route. But for my money, especially right now, I would be shopping around for the S2s that were before the pickup swaps that still came with the GMB pickups. You could find those basically on clearance because shops, they need to clear inventory so they can continue to get the newer versions in. I've seen them as low as $1,000 in open box condition, but it's not too uncommon to find one of the S2 McCarty 594s in both the single cut and the double cut versions for $1,300 or less. At that point, you buy the same exact harness and you are free to put in any pickups you want. You want Lawlers? Great. You want Lindy Fralins? Great. Hell, you just want Seymour Duncan pickups? Nothing wrong with those. A lot of those kick ass. Great. You're all done and you're saving a lot of money on top of that. However, not everybody likes to mod their guitars or has the tools to be able to do it and do it right. Some people just want to buy a product that right out of the box leaves you wanting nothing extra. And this is where this guitar really presents itself as a viable option. Getting great craftsmanship, great fretwork, excellent pickups, excellent electrical components, and upgraded gig bag compared to the older S2s and the SE. There's a lot going for it, and I really do think that this is a great guitar. On paper, again, we always look at things on paper and think, oh, I'm getting ripped off here or there. They're charging too much. The prices increases are too much. But when a company still commits to making sure that the customer is still getting a quality product, to me, it's a little bit easier of a pill to swallow. So I could see the case for all three of them. The SE is an awesome guitar that you could take out of the box and immediately start gigging with, not worry about, any sort of dings, divots, or anything like that from, normal gigging wear and tear. And then over time, you could modify the SE if you decided to, but I really don't feel like it needs anything outside of the upgraded electrical components. Going on to these guitars, out of the box, you're good. You can do the same exact thing. You could gig it the same night that you get the thing, and it's going to sound awesome, and you're not going to think to yourself, man, I really wish that this had the American-made pickups and, a little bit nicer gig bag or potentiometers. They're fantastic, and the tops on some of these, I've had people leave comments saying that this looks just like a 10-top, and again, I think that PRS are almost doing themselves a disservice offering all the core components when it comes to the electronics in these S2s compared to the cores, because the cores are so much more expensive than the S2s, and these are getting you like 95% of the way there, at least in my opinion, when it comes to the overall look, the feel, and the sounds. Good value indeed. That's going to be where we leave today's video, though. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Honestly, it doesn't matter what route you go. There is no wrong way to go about things. I think that all the options that I listed, whether it's buying used, buying the SE and modifying it a little bit, or just buying any of the guitars and playing them as is, are all very viable. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.